Pavel, I know that you are in a hurry. This is the first day in office after elections, and I will be very blunt. I am just from Moldova. I saw the Russian operation in Moldova that was surprisingly well stopped by Moldovan intelligence services. Their, firm fight against this malign interference. And honestly, today, my friends in the party asked, "Do you think the same happened in Prague? Did you see, Russian or Chinese involvement, knowing that if I would be Chinese or Russian, I would really get rid of leadership in Prague and install my little puppets? What can we learn from your elections? Because, we see different ideas of Czech Brexit from some radical groups. But on the other hand, we see some communists eliminated from elections. So it's like mixed picture. I'm not getting it maybe right. And Czech Republic is not Moldova. You have great experience. You have 20 years of EU and more in NATO. So, Pavel, what happened in Prague?
The elections for the lower house are over. We saw a huge numbers of participation of people, which is extremely good. We are almost at 68, 69%. And what we saw is that while the government of Petr Fiala was trying to frame the struggle for elections in terms of security and in terms of strategy, by opposition of Russian war against Ukraine, highlighting the importance of the strategic decisions to be taken, and that this government succeeded to take in terms of energy supplies and others. We have a country which succeeded to cut completely gas, oil, even nuclear fuel from Russian sources, which is extremely good and not so expensive for the general public as it is for Slovak citizens, for instance. Babiš completely disregarded this, and as a challenger and winner of this election, he didn't speak about Russian threat, about security and defense. He put it completely away, and he spoke about social condition of poor people in our country, promising to every constituency some money and some gifts. And he succeeded by this escape the trap of this geopolitical struggle or frame that we are living in these days. And instead, he succeeded to portray himself as a very careful manager who listens to struggle of people living far away from Prague. And at the end of the day, he succeeded in the last days of campaigning, also with the help of social media, to have a very large popularity and receptivity of people who would instead prefer to go with extremes. So at the end of the day, Babiš succeeded to attract a huge number of people and is the winner who tries now to negotiate the government. But he's not strong enough to have one single political party for this.
So if I may, Mr. Fischer, what happens next, right? Czechia has a great president. Babiš's win wasn't so big as you just said, where he would be able to dominate entirely the discussions for coalition formation and so on and so forth. So what's next for Czechia? How will the coalition be formed in your mind? And the most serious question that is on all of our minds, at least in Lithuania and elsewhere in Europe as well, is have we lost Czechia? Do we still have Czechia on the side of freedom, on the side of democracy, and on the side of Ukraine as well?
Listen, I will try to explain what is now ongoing, and then I will come back to the question of Ziggy's concerning social media, because this is something that I didn't address. Today, Babiš needs some 30 voices or more to have the majority, and he needs for this at least 2 remaining political parties who are not in the leaving coalition and who are free for him. First one is political party who are newcomers to the National Assembly, and their name is Party of Car Owners or Car Drivers, who are very much proposing right-wing agenda based on traditional engines of big cars, not electric cars, but with big cars, based on traditional engines, and they have very right-wing political program based on respect of budgetary responsibility, which is good, because this is something that Babiš will have to deal with. They are not against NATO membership, they are in favor of NATO membership, they are rather European in their minds, even though they challenge a lot of things like Green Deal or migration issues and so on, but they are rather disciplined. A part of this, Babiš will need also voices of SPD. SPD is not Social Democratic Party of Germany, as one could say, but this is a party of Tomio Okamura, who is the leader, and who invited to his list many small political parties. So his constituency or his members in the newly elected parliament will just jump out and will not be disciplined at all. They wanted, for instance, a referenda on EU and NATO membership of our country. Crazy these days. They wanted to challenge the help to Ukraine. Crazy these days. And I could continue. Nevertheless, they are so challenged by the new situation. Either they would like to have some ministers in the newly established government, or to have a large responsibility in the parliament, that they are back pedaling on many issues. They already said, okay, no referenda, and if referenda may be only on general terms, but not on NATO and not on EU these days. So this is very vivid. We have the president who consults every single political party, and who just recently today declared that we have 3 political parties willing to compose the government, more than 100 voices, 108 voices, with Babiš at the helm. But Babiš has also 2 personal problems to solve. He is prosecuted by the justice for mishandling of European funds, and he's most probably guilty, because the upper court already decided that he sees the guilt, and now the lower court has to only declare the level of punishment. So this is first very personal problem for Babiš. He will try to put it away. And second very personal problem for Babiš to solve is that he's the owner of Agrofert, the biggest recipient there of European funds and of public fundings, and he cannot be at the same time prime minister and owner of such a big company. This is major conflict of interests, and he already prepared a solution. We ignore it, but the president already was informed about. So this is where we are. If a direct question and simple question to your simple answer to your question, you didn't lose the Czech Republic at all. You have a very good president of the Republic here. You have the Senate and senators who challenged Babiš in the past already with a big success. And we also at that time challenged than the president of the republic, whose name was Zeman, and who was trying to engage very firmly both with Russia and China. And Senate succeeded to be a correction of the governmental policies. So we are here and we continue to work. Just don't lose the perspective, which is a longer one. And I think that the result of these governmental elections or parliamentarian elections is that you didn't lose Czech Republic, but it will be a different Czech Republic and maybe a bit more noisy than before.
And Pavel, can I on this note remind to our young voters that we're speaking with Pavel Fischer, who was, I call you, right hand of President Havel when he visited us, one of the first leaders to call to Vytautas Landsbergis and say, I'm with you. Then his visit, my late father was speaking about him so much, reading his letters and statements. So we still have a team of Havel who inspires us, and Pavel is personal representative of that team. Pavel, but coming back to our favorite subjects, because we are, members of IPAC, Interparliamentary Alliance that observes China's aggressive behaviors. You mentioned TikTok. In my embassy reports, it's saying that TikTok was still used for elections and challenged and more or less compliant seriously. So what about the role of social media you mentioned before? Did those autocratic countries played with your elections, using social media or not?
Yes, they did. I'm not on TikTok personally, so I cannot give you a first-hand experience. I refuse to be there for security reasons. But for a very direct question that you raise, there is a simple reply. Yes, there was a cheating online by hundreds of fake accounts or artificial accounts by TikTok, which were interconnected. And in the sum, they succeeded to have such a huge influence in the public debate that they were even stronger than all the political leaders together in terms of outreach. So imagine that regardless your political partisanship, you have political leaders and who do not succeed to prevail because the artificial created environment in TikTok was so important that it boosted all the messages which were positive to Russia, for instance. So if I were posting something negative to Russia and my neighbor posting something positive to Russia, he would reach tens or hundreds of thousands of reach and likes, and myself, I would be completely abandoned. So this is the challenge. And I know that the government succeeded to address this, but I lack some detailed information. By the way, Romanian experience and experience of other countries showed that TikTok was not the base, the fundamental challenge, that other activities on Facebook, namely, and others were even more toxic.
Vincentas?
Maybe
Actually,
you take this one.
I wanted to ask a question to both of you, because when we ask Lithuanian youngsters, do they use TikTok or not? Well, modestly, 90% of the hands are raising yes, we are. People like us, because of security reasons, knowing that this is Chinese toy, we don't use it. But Pavel and Vincentas, my question to you, we know that TikTok was used in most of the countries where election integrity was attacked. Shall we regulate its behavior on European level? I know that Americans hate it. They say this is violation of freedom of speech, but sorry, they're spreading Russian propaganda, as you just said. So do you think we might raise this question at European level, or youth will actually abandon us and will really not vote for us because we are taking the most favorite, toy from them.
Is this a question for me or for Mr. Fischer? Well,
And then Pavel, we will think what to do with people like.
Well, then I have a quick and short answer for that. I mean, it's obviously very difficult to regulate these things. I think what's important for us, the parties that believe in liberty and freedom and in democracy, for us to learn how to use these tools, because whether you like it or not, people are on social media. If we get rid of TikTok, or if we find some way to make it less aggressive, there will always be new medias like that. So the main thing for us is to learn the strategies and the tactics that are being employed by the populace and the evildoers of our systems, and to use it for good, to spread truth, to spread the values of freedom, of democracy, and of the West, rather than autocracies such as China and Russia.
Pavel, what do you think about that? I would never install TikTok in my phone. Would never. They could cut my hands, but I would not do it. What about you? What shall we do?
I think that we have a challenge here, because all the networks we use currently are so conceived that we ignore the algorithms which are behind, and we ignore the people who are handling this. When Elon Musk, and it is a paradox, bought Twitter/X, he put his hands in the motor, in the engine, and he changed this in his favor. So he has we have a freedom fighter, Elon Musk, who changed the rules for his favor. And this is something that sounds strange. I can imagine that if I were Chinese, I would be happy to know details about the algorithm of TikTok and the data of the users in order to play the games and to put the news that I dislike down. We saw it during COVID pandemic, which were very many these examples of hiding critical issues on COVID and PRC and spreading Chinese communist propaganda. So I think that we are not out of the danger, and I am really eager to understand what is the strategy now on the American side, for instance, how to address this, because this is not only a question of ownership of TikTok or others, but this is also a question of the algorithms behind, and the fact that many people who use, for instance, Facebook/Meta can use not only their current account, but they have proposals to launch dozens of anonymous accounts to take part in the public debate. And I think that we have to be extremely cautious, because this anonymity creates an environment in which we are challenged by actors who do not pay the taxes in our country, who do not have the permit of living, who do not have citizenship, who do not have the right to vote, but who pay millions to influence the strategic choices of our societies. And this is something extremely dangerous for the longer run.
Agreed. And I know we're running out of time, and if I may ask one final question, at least from my part, on the topic of youth, how did the youth vote, and how did the youth participate substantially in the election, or is it the same tendency as we see elsewhere in Europe, where the youth either don't vote or they come out to vote for radicals oftentimes? What did this look like on the ground in Czechia?
I think that if you study the results, and we do not have all the numbers yet, many people succeeded to have a say and propose very young people to the parliament. So we have a very low age now in the parliament, mainly Do you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We
Yes.
hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah.
Or at least I can't.
So I think that we have, in the case, for instance, of Pirates, which is a very specific political party in our country, many young people and many young ladies coming first time in the parliament. So this is not lost for young generation. Right, the opposite. Young people took part in the election, and for instance, young Christian Democrats succeeded to have a very large push for new seats in the parliament.
Young Christian Democrats, our friends who've been coming to us. Well, okay, Pavel, thank you so much. I promised just 20 minutes. I know that you are absolutely busy. I consider you my best friend in Prague. So I admire your work. I admire your statements. So let's continue. Please keep Prague in the hands of freedom, and we don't want another Hungary. We want Ukraine to be inside the EU and NATO, and maybe we could still do it. I would say Moldova crossed the Rubicon, political Rubicon recently. So I really want this Europe whole and free, all great idea. And I remember Havel saying it should be, Europeans should have a soul. It's not only, geopolitics. So let's do it together. It's not so easy when our soul is twisted with all those artificial intellects and TikToks, but we know we can prevail. And thanks again for this long-standing support of Prague to Vilnius. Thank you. Thank you, Pavel.
Thank you, Žygis, for having me, and let's stay in touch. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Vincentas.
Thank you, Mr. Fischer. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.